What if you never had to sleep again? Seriously, no beds, no alarms, no feeling tired, ever. What would you actually do with all that extra time? Today, we're going to explore how a world without sleep would change, well, literally everything we know about being human.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Forget beds, forget alarms, forget that amazing feeling of your head hitting the pillow. Imagine a life that just keeps going. The most immediate, absolutely staggering change would be the gift of time. What would you do with a sudden, massive surplus of waking hours?
And think about what that really means. It's not just a few extra hours a day. We're talking about a one-third expansion of your entire life. Suddenly, a 90-year life would feel like 120 years of active, conscious experience. The implications are they're enormous, touching every single part of our lives and society.
So, here's how we're going to break down this sleepless world. First up, we'll look at all the incredible things we'd gain. Then, we'll see how society would morph into this 24/7 machine. After that, we'll dig into the hidden costs to our minds, from creativity to our emotions. And finally, we'll tackle the big one. What's the ultimate price of being awake forever?
All right, let's start with the fun stuff, the personal benefits. What annoying, frustrating parts of life would just immediately vanish in a world without sleep?
Just think about it for a second. No more tossing and turning, fighting insomnia, jet lag. That would be a totally forgotten relic of the past. You'd never, ever oversleep for an important meeting again. The whole nightly ritual, the winding down, the anxiety about getting enough rest, the groggy mornings, poof, it's all gone. Imagine just existing in a state of continuous, crystal clear focus, 24/7.
Okay, so now let's zoom out from our personal lives and look at the entire planet. What happens when 8 billion people just stop sleeping? Society itself would have to undergo a truly radical transformation.
On the one hand, the economic upside is pretty staggering. Factories could run nonstop, hospitals could be fully staffed around the clock, public transport would never cease. The night would basically become a second day, filled with new social scenes and activities. But, and this is a big but, there's a clear downside. The pressure to be productive would be immense. Would the 8-hour workday become a 12 or even a 16-hour one? That line between work and life, which is already pretty blurry for a lot of us, could just be erased completely. We might gain all this time only to fill it with more work.
So we've gained time, but we're starting to see the cost. And that cost runs much deeper than just longer work hours. This nonstop productivity comes at a steep, hidden price, one paid by the very core of how we think. What happens to creativity when the mind never, ever gets to rest and just wander?
To really understand this, we need to look at a key brain system called the default mode network, or DMN for short. These are the parts of your brain that light up when you're not doing anything in particular. When you're daydreaming, letting your mind drift. It's basically the brain's internal sandbox, where our most creative and original ideas are born. See, our brain pretty much operates in two main modes. When we're focused on a task, like listening to me right now, our cognitive control network is active. But, and this is so important, when that network is on, the default mode network is off. They work in opposition. The DMN is where our thoughts run free, making all these loose, wild, unconstrained connections.
And here's the crucial point. That wandering, unfocused state is not wasted time, not at all. Research actually shows a direct link between the strength of this default mode network and a person's creative output. A bigger mental sandbox allows for more creative ideas to flourish. A constantly on, sleepless world would mean a constantly active cognitive control network, which would effectively silence the part of our brain that dreams up new ideas.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. In one landmark study, researchers gave participants a complex problem with a hidden shortcut. One group got a full night's sleep, while the other group had to stay awake. The results were absolutely stunning. Nearly 60% of the rested group figured out the shortcut, and those who stayed awake, only 23%. Sleep more than doubled their chances of having that aha moment of insight.
But it's not just about logical insight and creativity. Sleep performs another function for our minds, one that might be even more vital. It's where we process our feelings. So what would happen to our emotional stability in a world without dreams?
You know, the most vivid dreaming happens during REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. And neuroscientists have discovered that this stage isn't just for telling random stories in your head. It plays this pivotal role in handling the emotional baggage from our day. It is, in essence, a form of overnight therapy.
So, how does this actually work? Well, imagine you have a stressful experience during the day. That night, during REM sleep, your brain replays the memory. But here's the magic trick: it does this in a brain environment where the stress related chemicals are completely suppressed. This whole process lets the brain keep the useful information from the memory, but strip away that raw, painful emotional charge. It lets us learn from tough experiences without being constantly traumatized by them. As this research suggests, dreaming is like a nightly emotional flight simulator. It's a safe space for our brain to rehearse difficult scenarios and build up emotional resilience. Without it, negative emotions would just linger and pile up and eventually overwhelm us. We'd remember every sting, but we'd never truly heal from it. We'd become walking, talking archives of our own pain. So we've journeyed through this sleepless world, right? From the amazing promise of more time to the very real danger of losing our creative and emotional centers. So let's put it all together. Let's weigh the final gains against the losses. So what's the final verdict? We would gain the very tangible currency of time, constant awareness, and a world of nonstop productivity. But the price we'd pay would be the intangible, yet absolutely priceless parts of our humanity. We'd lose the engine of creative insight, the mechanism for emotional healing, and that fundamental rhythm of rest and activity that really makes us who we are. And this brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? In this hypothetical world, we would undoubtedly live more, at least in terms of sheer hours. But would we live better? Is a life that's just longer, but also less creative, less insightful, and less emotionally resilient, is that really an improvement? You know, maybe the greatest paradox here is that in our quest for more time to live, we would sacrifice the very processes that make life meaningful in the first place. The quiet, internal work of sleep, the problem solving, the healing, the dreaming, that might not be a limitation we need to overcome. It might be the very foundation of what makes us human. We might trade rest for time, only to find that rest was where we truly lived all along.